Oh, welcome to another briefing. So, in this briefing, I wanted to talk a little bit about the historic snowfall event that took place around the January 20th to 22nd time frame across the deep south of the United States, where areas like Houston, New Orleans, and Pensacola, Florida, just to name a few, saw snowfall, significant snowfall. And so I wanted to start out by kind of just talking about what the general pattern was in the upper atmosphere and why that combination of cold air and moisture was able to take place and how that resulted in snowfall in many areas of the Deep South. So, what I wanted to point out, the first thing I wanted to point out here is looking at the reanalysis for just one moment. The 21st, January 21st at 9 p.m. Central. This is when the storm system was moving through, I believe, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And I can actually put that here so you can see. Yeah, exactly. We had snow at the moment. It had moved through Houston and New Orleans already, and this is when it was moving into northern parts of Florida. And you can see here that snow represented in blue, and ice or wintry mix in orange. That's usually sleet. And then you have rain in green. And yeah, you had there was some quite a deep intrusion of cold air here for that precipitation to fall as snow, and that's what I wanted to show you right now. So you had a big ridge, a big dome of high pressure. It was a ridge, it was doing this. This is what the jet stream was doing roughly on that day at that time. So what this meant was that there was sort of a tilted high pressure ridge over here over the western United States, and that was forcing in return, as when you have this ridging spiking over here, that forces it was actually spiking well into northern Canada. It's just not shown in this frame. But it basically forces cold air that's over the Arctic Circle and the Arctic regions down into the eastern United States when you have this kind of setup where you have a sharp ridge out west and going well up into Arctic areas. It's just not shown, but that's what was happening. And then you have this trough. You have a deep trough that digs very frigid air that's usually over the Arctic zones into the eastern United States and oftentimes even the southern United States. And so that means there's plenty of cold air available at this point. There's a deep push of cold air into the southern United States. I'm actually going to put the 5,000 foot temperature overlay here. And you'll see what I mean. Look at this. This is temperatures of the freezing level all the way down into Florida at the 5,000 foot level nonetheless, but this doesn't happen often, even for the 5,000 foot level to get down to freezing. That's not very common. And so you had even -10 Celsius, that's around 14 Fahrenheit, down to places around New Orleans and Jacksonville. This is very, very cold air for this region. And at the same time, you can see a lot of mild air out west. I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this is all the mild air out west, which is associated with that ridge of high pressure I was talking about. And this is all the cold air out east from the trough. Because remember, I was talking about the jet stream doing something like this. So that is allowing all this cold air to push down. And there was a bit of a tilt to this trough, where it was tilting a little bit towards the west. And you can kind of see that going on here. And so that was just a perfect combination of cold air coming down from the north with moisture coming from the south. And let's see if there's a good way to show that. Let's see. Surface winds. Okay, I think this is a good way to show that, roughly. You have a lot of, so we're looking at the upper level winds at about 30,000 feet with this frame. And what you can notice is you have a lot of kind of a southwesterly wind flow right here in the Gulf of Mexico over where this deep south is. At the same time as you have this deep intrusion of cold air, you can really pick out that troughing I was talking about. And here's that ridging. Here's that big ridge of high pressure out west. You can see that with the jet stream way north, because that's what the ridge does. It pushes that jet to the north. And then you see that cold air that gets displaced, all the cold air that was sitting over northern Canada. As this ridge spikes up, this gets pushed to the south, and you can see that troughing here. But you see a lot of south flow. Another thing that really stands out is you have a lot of moisture coming in here, because you have these really strong winds at high levels out of a direction where a lot of moisture is going to be advected in from the areas like the Gulf of Mexico. And you have also a lot of lift that can result from just these strong winds alone, because when you have that much strong wind high up at the atmosphere, it's going to cause, this is kind of a more getting a little more complicated into atmospheric dynamics and such, but it's basically going to cause more convection and more lift at the surface, which is going to facilitate. The lift is sort of the engine. And you did have a low pressure system out here as well, I believe, which kind of acts as the engine as well. You probably had a little surface low here. I believe that was the case. And then you have the fuel, which is the moisture. And you have plenty of moisture. You have the engine in place. You have plenty of cold air available coming down from the north, as I mentioned, to make that snow possible. Like, you had the freezing line all the way down here in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So you had snow in areas like New Orleans and Pensacola, which usually do not see snow. Maybe once in a 10 or 20 year, maybe even more than that event for them. So it's not very common at all. It is quite rare. So yeah, that's all I have to talk about for this video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and like the science of it and why it happened. Maybe I'll even for the heck of it, I'll show you snow depth. Kind of want to look at what the snow depth ended up being after this system. And look at that, that's pretty significant. I mean, you're looking at half a foot of snow in the New Orleans area ended up sticking. A few inches in the Houston area, Jacksonville, right outside of Jacksonville, Pensacola area, perhaps looks like a few inches stuck on the ground there. By the time the system was passing, I believe it didn't stick very long after that, but it stuck a little bit because it got really cold. There was a really cold air mass in place right after that. So I think it did actually, see, this is going all the way into the 23rd. There was still quite a bit of snow that had been sticking around in parts of the deep south like New Orleans and North Florida, down the coast of the Carolinas here. So that's pretty impressive, pretty interesting to look at. Anyways, that's all I have to say. That I wanted to just give an overview of why that happened. Pretty historic event there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.